This morning, Richard Powers and his new book, Playground. He's been writing for decades after starting as a computer programmer, but it was the Overstory in 2019 that won him a Pulitzer Prize and landed on just about everybody's list as one of the great books of the 21st century. Playground follows a similar track, though instead of trees, Powers has turned his eyes to water. We met him near his home in Tennessee, where he lives in the Great Smoky Mountains. Great Smoky Mountains.
Yeah, here we are, mountains beyond mountains. So we're looking mostly southeast, and you can see the spine of the southern Appalachians at the top of this parfait here.
Richard Powers is about as keen an observer of the natural world as you'll ever find.
What's neat about the Smokies is that depending on your count, you have about 6 different types of forest.
It is a talent he took to magical levels in The Overstory, a novel about 9 Americans' unique connections to trees. Now it's Playground, set largely on water. When you wrote Playground, were you trying to write about the ocean the same way you wrote about trees in The Overstory?
Yeah, learning to see more, learning to pick out the details, that's a lifelong process.
Richard Powers was born in Chicago, but when he was 11, his family moved to Thailand. Southeast Asia made a lasting impression.
From the age of 11 to about the age of 17, I thought, that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be an oceanographer. I'm going to be a marine scientist of some kind. I ended up getting sidetracked.
Sidetracked first by a physics major, then his first job as a computer programmer. Sidetracked again when he saw this photo in the mid-'80s. 3 farmers on their way to a dance. What was it about that photo that changed your life?
They were looking at me. It was the weirdest feeling, you know. The lens had opened up this portal for me back to 1914, but they were looking back at me. The moment of fictional aha comes when you get a little glimpse of just how interdependent past and present is.
Powers wrote a book with the same title and kept going, but didn't achieve superstar status until his early 60s with The Overstory. I don't want to call you a late bloomer because you had some great success earlier on and critical success with early books, but The Overstory changed a lot.
Yeah, it did. And I don't mind the late bloomer tag. You know, in fact, when I was thinking about those choices, do I go into science? Do I program computers? Do I pursue my skill in mathematics? I looked at those and I thought, you know what? Those guys do their best work in their 20s and 30s, you know, and then they get kicked up into management.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, if I go with literature, there's no limit to it. I mean, there are American writers of our lifetime who did their best work in their 80s.
Yeah.
I like that late bloomer thing.
No, that's the track, I think, if your chosen profession.
Yeah.
You have to wait.
The waiting makes it sweeter.
Powers' last 3 books in particular have pushed against the idea of human exceptionalism. That is, we're the only story on Earth.
There are 80 species of freshwater fish in these rivers of southern Appalachia. It's
80?
one of the densest concentrations of freshwater fish.
He gave us an idea of what he means, taking us snorkeling in the Great Smoky Mountains.
That's amazing. They're everywhere. That is amazing. I was reading a lot of literary fiction that never dealt in anything except us. You know, I would read a 300-page novel, and there would be no suggestion that anything except the human world existed.
Trees, animals.
Nothing. It started to become clear to me that we need stories that can break the hold of that culture, that can say, no, we're not individuals. You know, no, we're not separate from everything else, because we're in a culture that's so convinced that we're really the only interesting story. You know, that we human beings are the main game in town, and everything else is kind of just a little subsidiary of the human project. No, we don't have an accurate notion of just how small we are in terms of this larger picture of living on Earth.
Playground is an homage to the beauty and possibility of the ocean. But it's more than that. Like a lot of Power's work, his latest is about the eternal battle between nature and technology.
I mean, there's the 10-year-old who wanted to be an oceanographer, but there's also, the 20-year-old who fell in love with programming.
So have you reached a point now where you want to pursue nature more or pursue technology?
I want to tell stories that see us as a small part of a huge set of processes, and to make that not frightening, to make it full of possibility.
You get caught in the churn there, but then come back up and it feels pretty good to swim in the Great Smokies. I don't think anybody writes about nature these days and just looking at the natural world better than Richard Powers does. So it was a joy. I'm glad we got to spend some time with him. We appreciate it.
You did a pretty good job there, Jeffrey Todd.
Well, he does a pretty great job.